Hi, I'm Matthias.
And I'm Emil.
And we're here to introduce you to our conversation with none other than BJ McDonnell. He is mostly famous for being the camera operator on every movie you can imagine.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna try to list a couple of them here.
Yeah, we can say that. If you think of a movie, he probably have operated a camera on that. He directed Slayer's Killogy, trilogy of music videos and a live show, if I remember correctly, and also Hatchet 3.
Yeah, of course, Hatchet 3.
Yeah.
And also, I think he should be noted for having the coolest IMDb picture ever taken, and no one can ever argue with that.
Exactly. So, what did you think of BJ, Emil?
Oh, he was the coolest, sweetest dude, because we had a technical issue at first when we actually did an interview for 1.5 hours, and then my computer crashed.
Yeah, so it's lost in the ether. But he was kind enough to, just a week later, I think, agreed to do a second try, and we had just as a good time as the first time.
Oh, what a mensch.
Yes.
Oh.
So I think we just jump right into it then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Enjoy BJ.
So we're going to make a little intro and explain to our viewers and listeners why there was some complications, but finally we have BJ back again, and we're very happy for that.
We're back.
Yes. So, we can just say that we had so much fun last time. Matthias actually described it kind of like just sitting around and talking like we always do.
Yeah.
It didn't feel, you didn't have a pretentious or, high above attitude.
Honestly, that's how I feel like everything should be. Like I said, I've been in this business for over 2 decades now, and being pretentious and being arrogant and all that crap gets you nowhere. And honestly, it's what's the point? It just makes you look more like an ass. So I try to keep it more of a friendly way. And maybe it's the Southern blood I have in me a little bit, the Southern charm, even though I was born in California.
Oh, yes, you were born in Cali.
I was born in Van Nuys, yeah, and then my family, we went to Florida, and that's where I was basically raised since I was 5. And then around, I don't know, probably maybe when I was 24, I packed up and left. After I had a punk rock career, and then when that went away, I decided to do movies.
Yeah, that's true. You told us that you had your amp, I think, in the background.
Oh yeah, yes. That's my old Ampeg right there, 810 cabinet from back in my band days that I can't seem to ever get rid of because it's just nostalgic. So it just sits there and kind of rots in my office, but it's unfortunate. I should crank that thing on and really piss off my neighbors.
I think you should.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, when I first moved to this place, I remember in my house, I did play it a little bit, and I remember getting a note in my mailbox being like, hey, it's cool, but can you turn it down a little bit because our walls are rattling? I became the nice neighbor, and I decided to turn it down a little bit. So, now it just doesn't turn on. Oh well, that's the way it goes.
I think we all have stuff from earlier things we have done that we really can't get rid of yet.
It's hard to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Especially when it was a big part of your life. Honestly, before I did any movie stuff, my whole life was music and bands, and that's what I did for 6 years of my life. Toured with a punk band, and then when that didn't go anywhere, and I was stuck in my hometown in Florida, I said, "Screw this! I'm out of here," and I went to make movies.
That's the greatest thing to do when you say "screw it," I think. Because then you have really nothing to lose, really, and you just, you know what? I'm gonna try to make a movie or make movies.
Yeah,
and you did.
That's the scariest thing, because you just never know, the path you're going to go into with making films. Because, I think we talked before. My upbringing, my grandfather was an actor back in the day, So as a kid, I kind of was surrounded by that stuff. And, me and my buddies would make like short films when we were like younger, and we would have, run around with the big, huge VHS camcorders with the backpack and the big VCR in the back, editing with like trying to 2 VCRs, hit and play, record and pop, all that. Just, it was terrible, but we did it. And then, I traveled around with my grandfather, went to like some of his old movie sets and kind of knew about the film business. And then went to punk rock. And when that went away, I went, okay, what else do I like? I can't see myself being a fireman or doctor or doing some kind of desk job. It just would be dull. So I took the plunge and drove to Cali and went to film school, which you don't need. And here I am.
I remember you saying that, so I'm so happy that you said it again, actually.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like a lot of people, it's hard to get the direction of where you want to go, especially if you don't know where to go. By this time when I moved out here, my grandfather had already passed away. My grandmother was a big inspiration because she had been through it all, with the good times and the bad times with my grandfather, because everybody has their ups and downs. Business is good, business is bad, and with the freelance stuff as a film industry, it's a bit scary to get into it because you don't have a set schedule, you don't have a boss, and you don't know where to go. So I did the whole film school route. I went to, LACC, Los Angeles City College, because that's all I could afford. I couldn't afford USC or UCLA or any of those places because they're just too expensive, And, I went to film school, and the first thing, my first instructor, I'll never forget when he walked in the room, he looked at the whole class and he goes, first of all, I want to say, what are you guys doing here? And I was like, oh no, that's not good. And he's like, why? He goes, it's great you guys are here. We love it. We the teachers love it. But he goes, why would you not just take this money and go make a short film or go do something with this money other than taking classes? Which was it was a punch in the gut, but in all honesty, he was correct. I mean, I could have just done that, and then I completed film school, and then I went on, to work, on set as a grip. I didn't, and all the stuff I learned in film school did not teach me any of the knowledge that I would have gained or anything, film related, had I not had the on-set experience. You can look in a book and you can look at this is a picture of a C-stand. Okay, what's a C-stand? Until you get your hands on it, and then you go, oh, and then people teach you how to use the gear. And the other thing that you don't get taught is politics or the etiquette on a set. You don't know what it really involves, until you actually live it and go on it and experience it and get to know what each department does. That's the knowledge you need. So anybody here that's watching this, that's thinking about going to film school, don't.
Yeah, learn by doing.
Yeah, seriously, go work on a set. Go, and it's actually even better because even if you go in as a PA, you can see each different department and what they do, and you can go, oh, I love what those guys I love what the grips are doing. That's really cool, and I love what art department's doing or camera. Any of those kind of fields, it really shows you which path you might want to take, and that's more valuable than spending money. And if you have the money to go to film school, then make a short film.
Yeah.
That's actually the best advice ever, I think, really, because I can't speak for him, but I want to remember that Joe Lynch actually said the same thing, because I think he went to film school and then he had an internship at funny enough Trauma, and right. He said that he learned everything there, how to everything. Make it. Yeah you learn everything on a set, so it's just more valuable, and you go to school for however long and it's a waste of time. You're wasting your time, in my opinion. Maybe it's good if you want to be a producer and you want to learn the bookings of, or all you have to deal with, because being a producer is tough because you got to deal with all the behind the scenes stuff, contacting people, getting putting money where it needs to go and all that stuff. And that's something you have, obviously you could learn by being an understudy of a producer too, but maybe that's more valuable there. But as a crew member wanting to get into the craft, it's more valuable just to go and do it. Yeah, it really feels like the trenches. And I feel so at home when I'm out there with a camera or trying to direct or act, really, instead of going to lectures. And I've given lectures, and it's always weird because I always want to say the things you do, but it's always my old teachers like inviting me. So I feel like I can't say that I wouldn't recommend it because they want me here. So
yeah, they're like, don't discourage them from coming to this school and spending money.
Luckily, we're actually in Sweden, so we kind of get it for free. Me and Matthias studied filmmaking together. Yeah. But we had already made a couple of shorts, and I think it was my letter that I sent to the school to get applied or get just to get in. Yes, accepted. Thank you. I wrote that I kind of know what I want to do, but I don't have the equipment, so I want your equipment, and I got in.
There you go.
It worked, and I think just being honest with at least one of the teachers really made us like respect each other and been able to work since then.
Yeah. It's crazy though, like, you know, for people that don't know where to go or how to do it, you know, and I always think about this way. I'll never forget being online, you know, when online was terrible because it was just like becoming the internet. That's how old I am. I just remember looking at like and researching all the schools and not knowing anything. It's like, oh, you know, USC, that's I wish I could go there, you know. And I look at how much money I would have to spend just to go there, and it's like, can't afford that. Or AFI, you know, like all these places, because you don't know what path to take, you know. And that's hard when you want to get into the film business, is like really knowing what direction you're going to go in, and also knowing somebody to get you in. That's the hard part, you know. Not saying that, you know, so these schools don't lead to somewhere. I mean, I worked with Patty Jenkins, you know, and when she was AFI, and I was just becoming a Steadicam operator, you know, camera operator, and I was like running around doing with a glide cam, you know, doing these like yoga videos that she was directing, you know, which is it. And then look at her now, you know, she's, you know, did Monster, and then she's doing all these, you know, Wonder Woman and all these movies. It's just, it's impressive. So it's not always like a bad thing to go to these schools. They do work out for people, but, you know, I would say going, you know, for a lot of people, just getting the experience on sets, it's gold.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the Robert Rodriguez way. Yes, you get your money and then you try to learn as much as you can, and you just combine it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a good way to go. So, you know, I feel lucky every day, you know, with what's going on with me. But at the same time, it's also a scary business because it's freelance, and you never know. You could be on top, and the next thing you know, you're not getting calls anymore. So, you know, it's a weird business.
But I find it so funny always it sounds like I'm stalking you, but every time I look at your like filmography, it's like, this is the filmography of a freelancer, because it's everything between heaven and hell. I love it.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm just when it comes to making movies or working on them, I'm just a whore. You know, I look at it this way. It's like, you know, I gain more experience of the things that I like to do by meeting all the people that I get to meet and learning from the directors that you know, as a director, I get to watch what they do. And I actually, it's still like to this day, I still feel like I still have my own personal film school, because I get to see different people do different things. You know, I see people really do really great techniques. And then I also see the flip side of that, where I see people do terrible techniques and watch, you know, how it can fail or how it can be successessful. You know, everybody has their own way of doing things, you know, that, again, going back to the film school thing, this has been a more valuable, you know, thing for me, is watching and taking note of what all these different people do. You can't pay for that. USC ain't going to teach you that.
That's so interesting that you say, because I know me and Matthias during film school actually said that we shouldn't just watch the, you know, great movies, the big ones that everybody talks about. We should watch the ones nobody talks about that kind of failed. I think The Room is like the perfect example for how to not make a movie. Because
but look at him now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He still succeeded.
And it's still successful for that. I mean, you know, just him showing this movie and running around with the movie, he's made a killing off of that film.
Oh yeah, I've paid for it more than twice. Oh, more than once. So yeah.
Okay, good.
Because we had screenings of movies that we chose to watch in class.
Right.
We watched movies together, and I think only me and you, Emil, were the ones that said, let's take movies that aren't that good as well. But everybody wanted to, I got a chance to show people my favorite movie of all time instead. And
you guys show Hatchet 3?
We did not, sadly. We should have, really, because it's interesting.
Precisely. I think we voted on the next film all the time, and mine never got picked. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people just want to see the mainstream things, you know, and I'll never forget, like in my film school at LACC, it's always funny because there's always these certain people that almost dress just like Spielberg. They would wear the hat and they would like take like their looks, or they'd wear a suit like they were, you know, it's just like, you know, I don't know, man, maybe image is what's going to get you going. I don't know.
I think I tried to get my class to pick Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Yeah, and it kind of worked until I described what it was about. Then they weren't interested anymore.
Nice. I remember like all the kids in my film, or kids, or it was a mix of kids and grown-ups. That time I was a kid. I just remember when everybody made their first film, and we all shot it on Super 8. Like our first things were all shot on Super 8. And we learned how to edit on like the, you know, moviolas and you know, how to cut and splice the stuff together. Old style shit, film. I never got to learn like Avid or Final Cut or any of that stuff. So that's all been a new thing for me to learn. But going back to that, it was funny because everybody would make their first film, and then one person that got praised was the guy that just made this artsy film. Made no sense whatsoever. Like people tried to make stories, but it was the art film, like a guy walking through a tree with like a thing of baby powder, like poofing it around. And everyone's like, oh, wow. And then so everyone's like, that's amazing. Wow, the visuals. So then the next round of movies were all artsy fartsy films. I'll never forget that. And it was like me and three of my buddies, my buddy James, my buddy Don. We were like, all we wanted to do were horror and action films. And that's what we, you know, so we kept turning in our action films and horror films, but it became this whole like elitist, like artsy fartsy film class against the guys that were trying to make like a story driven, you know, low budge, you know, Hershey's syrup is blood crap going all over the place, you know, films. It was a weird thing to watch how that went down. I think everyone saw that and was like, well, if I just shoot like a slow-mo shot of like a drop of water on a flower petal, people will like my films. Mm-hmm. You know, that's how my film school went. It was pretty ridiculous. We made a movie about a beer can that was trying to kill us.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a movie about a beer can that was chasing me around this apartment building. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, funny enough, one of the first movies I made in the film class was a champagne cooler that was killing a guy. But yeah,
that was the thing. I was like, you both made a movie about drinking peripherals of drinks killing people.
Oh yeah, it was funny because you know, that was a movie. My buddy James, I mentioned, he wrote that one, and he got all the kids in class would hate his stuff. I made a movie about basically like I went and I rented a fog machine, and we made this whole like ghost coming out of the fog and attacking this person, and we were throwing dummies off a balcony and stuff like that. Just real old school, like, you know, trauma style fun stuff, you know, because we thought it was awesome, and, you know, black and white made it look cool. And then he wrote this beer can thing, which I thought was hilarious. And I was running from this beer can. But I'll never forget that they had the end of the season, like voting on your movies that the class liked. And mine got in there somehow. Maybe it's because I had smoke, so they thought it was artsy fartsy. Who knows? But all these other art films won. And then James, he kept making these things. And he's like, this is for sure. People are going to love it. And they hate it. You know, people were like, and he'd get upset. Then he got so upset that he actually was like, I'm going to the recruiter. So he went and joined the army, and he took off, became a sniper. And then he came back, and he just was like, I'm done with the film industry. He was so hell-bent on it. But now he's a successful businessman. Now he's back from the military, and he has a solar company. So he went totally a different way. I just thought it was funny that it drove him so to that point where he's like, I'm out of here. I'm going to the military. I was like, don't do that. I grew up in a military town. Don't do that. Crazy.
That's like one of the few working environments that could push you to actually kill someone is movie making. So I can see the logic.
Yeah. He got frustrated and went to Baghdad. Yeah.
It's actually fun that you say, the low budget, making some fun kind of movie, because we talked to Lloyd Kaufman yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Oh yeah, that was so much fun.
That was fun. That guy's a character.
Oh, he really is.
Yeah.
You're like, you always seen clips and bits of him, and he was like exactly the same here as talking to us. And the first thing he did, which freaked me out a bit, was congratulating me on the success of the short I made that they picked up. And it was
awesome.
like, yeah, but it was so weird because they picked it up a long time ago, and he was like, yeah, you made that short. Yeah, that was great. It was like a good social commentary to it. And I was like, he knows who I am, I guess. This is so weird.
That's cool, though.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I hope we get to like have him on in the future, or just, do some fun things together.
Yeah.
And it kind of, made me realize how much I love it, making the fun movies.
Yeah.
And of course, I want to do, I have played Shakespeare for over like 10 years.
Right.
And then I turned to making horror and splatter comedy movies. And I kind of love that more. And people get so upset because I make those kinds of movies, and it makes me more happy.
I generally think making horror films is more fun, because, like going back to what you said, when you looked at like what I've done with my, with my ups and like I've done crazy horror and I've done serious drama. I'm all over the map. But again, like I said, I'm a horror. But when it comes down to making horror films, I feel like you can get way more creative. You can get way more into like, you don't have to follow the same rules as most movies. Sure, you got the filmmaking rules, yeah, but like, we might have talked about this last time, but like I mentioned, like working on the Rob Zombie stuff. Mm-hmm. I think I talked about this, but
yes, do it again, because that was an interesting take.
Oh, well, the thing is, like, it's hard because like with Rob, I'm trained as a operator to like, you follow certain rules, but when you work with Rob, or you work, on other horror films, you can break that mold. Rob generally doesn't give a shit about the line, because there's a line for people who don't know how filmmaking is. You have to make sure eye lines work. So you have to follow a certain line unless you go to like a insert that you can flip over, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, Rob doesn't care. Rob's like, if the shot is rad and the shot looks cool, let's shoot it, and it's kind of a neat, way to break the mold. You untrain your mind of what the rules are for you to make films. The problem is when you finish Rob's jobs, is trying to retrain your head to go back to the next job. And I've actually had those instances where I've done a movie with Rob and then I'll go do something that's like super like, straightforward movie making, and I have to like get back into that. I'll jump over on the other side of the line, and people are like, "Dude, you can't shoot on that side of the line." Oh yeah, right. Yeah, my bad. Oh, we're over here. It's a whole different way, but it's kind of cool. Just you can break those molds, and you can be way more creative. Rob's very visual, which has taught me a lot. Going back to things I've learned with working with certain people on sets, I learned a lot from him. Like a lot of things, just framing wise, how to do it differently.
I think that's kind of important to actually like have with you, because you kind of need to learn the rules to know how to break the rules and when to break them.
100%.
Otherwise, it just becomes like, I don't know, a mishmash, and nothing feels coherent at all. And I think watching Rob's movies is always fun because of the visual style.
Yeah,
it's like one of the great things about them.
Yeah, I always enjoy working with him on those things because you do get to do something different. It's more visual, but he knows how to do it. That's the thing. It's like, look, there are ways. If you don't get enough coverage, your movie will make no sense whatsoever. There is a certain rule about it, but Rob gets enough coverage to the point where that you can cut the movie and it's going to work out fine, and visually it's going to be great. like we did that with Halloween too. I mean, that was such a fun thing to do. Was like after we did Halloween 1, which was more of a straightforward kind of film. After that, when he wanted to do Halloween 2, we broke the mold on that one. We shot it really dark. We just did our own thing, and I love what we did on that one. I thought it was visually it was a lot of fun. A lot of people were just like, "What is this?" But I loved what we did. It was great.
Yeah, that's like one of the reasons I really love the second one more, I would say, because I wasn't a big fan of the first one. I don't know, maybe I'm I love the original so much, and I felt like it's hard to replace, in quotations. But then the second one came and did its complete own thing, and still felt like a Halloween movie, and it was like, this is beautiful. This is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, it was cool. It just we didn't have to follow so much the same script, So originally the Halloween that Rob wanted to do, he wanted to do 2 of them. He wanted to do the movie about young Michael Myers, and it was going to be done after that. And then you were going to go to older Michael Myers with Laurie Strode and all that. But he had to do the whole movie all together in the first one. Second one around, he was like, this is what I want to do. These are, this is how I want to shoot this movie. This is the script I want to do, and he got to really do more of what he wanted to do. Because the first one, it wasn't so much really like what he really wanted to do. It was just more of like a studio film. Let's make another Halloween movie, and he played ball, and he did a good job. I thought what he did.
Yeah.
We shot it, 16:9, and I'll never forget watching it and seeing the framing, and all of a sudden he just cropped it. So originally, that's why a lot of times you see the framing is so tight because we didn't shoot it 240.
Oh, you actually shot it 16:9.
And then they just cropped the image without reframing. So there's a shot where you see Michael Myers carrying Laurie Strode down a sidewalk, and his head's chopped. Well, if you watch a trailer, one of the first trailers that come out, it's actually 16:9. You see the full frame of him walking. That's how we originally shot it.
Why?
More cinematic, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. But it's choice. It's his choice, and it works.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it worked. I haven't thought about it before you said it now, but it's just the fact that someone did it kind of, it hurts me somewhat.
Well, as a camera operator, as being one of the guys that was shooting that, when I saw, I was like, oh, because like it wasn't framed how we framed it. So I was like, oh my God, people are gonna think I'm terrible, So when we did Halloween 2, we framed properly.
Nice.
Yeah, because that's an interesting fact. We spoke about it a little bit last time, the changing aspect ratio of the Hatchet movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because if I remember it correctly, is it between the second and third one, or does it change already between the first and second one?
Yeah, the first and second one was like a 16:9 frame, and then I wanted to make it more cinematic. My whole take on doing the Hatchet 3 was I didn't want it to look like Hatchet 1 or 2. I wanted to put my own twist into it, and that was the whole thing. That's why we actually shot it in a real swamp, which was absolutely horrible. It was horrible. It was brutal. And so, but I wanted to make it more of like a cinematic experience. So I framed everything 240. We didn't shoot anamorphic or anything, but we just framed for it that way. Because I felt like, the first one we shot in the desert, except for like the daytime exteriors when they're in New Orleans. We actually went to New Orleans and shot that. It was like 3 days of shooting. It was really quick. But the rest of the movie is shot like in the desert, throwing moss up into these oak trees. So it looks like a swamp. And we had a pond that, the pond is, every time you see that pond, it's the same pond. Every time, the little house and then the boats in the pond. And it's just like, we just changed the angles. And it worked fine. Hatchet 2, we shot on stage. Shot a little bit in New Orleans, not much. Like more, of course, we did the day exteriors, but the rest of the movie was shot on the stage, where we had a post in the middle of the set, and we would just move plants and things around to make it look like a different area. And it's kind of like they did on The Descent, like in the cave. Like, instead of shooting in a real cave, which would be a nightmare, they had rolling boulders that you could place in different areas to make it look like a different cave. So what we did was we just had different plants that you could move around and do it that way. But to me, it felt like you could feel that. Everything felt so contained and so like it felt like everything was just crunched in because you had to make it, like that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to actually shoot in a real swamp so I could expand the whole look of it, even the openings, even the night times with the lights and seeing through the trees and all the plants and being in a real swamp. I wanted you to be able to feel like you were really there in the swamp, and we were. It was pretty tough to make that movie. In New Orleans, it's hard because rainstorms and thunderstorms shut you down. We shot, the night times were so short when we shot because it was summertime that we had to just plow through stuff just to get it done. And we had so many characters in this movie that had to go in. It was just like crunch time, 1 or 2 takes, moving on, 1 or 2, hopefully it all worked out.
Oh shit.
It's like, and we didn't have a lot of money. This is the least budget out of between 1 and 3. We had the least amount of money to do this movie with more characters, with the SWAT team, with actually shooting in a swamp, blowing up a house, rocket launcher, doing all that kind of stuff. We were on a crunch time. But we made it work. The thing is, when you're making a movie, you have to make the movie, and you got to know what your times are. When I'm directing, I'm constantly looking at my watch, just being like, all right, how much time do we have for this? And you got to try to allot for the things you got to do to make sure. If one little area is not as important as making something happen over here, like this kill sequence or explosion, you just get the best performance you can, move on. On schedules like that, that's all you can do. You can't sit there and just take 8, take 9, take 10. It's like take 1 or 2. Okay, that was good. Moving on. We're out of here. Let's move on.
Yep.
That was where, and I think I talked about last time, what I tried to talk to Adam, when we were writing Hatchet 3, when he was writing it, I tried to convince him, instead of going out also into the swamp, before we were like, okay, we're going to do this. I wanted to actually contain it more. I wanted to, if there was a way to do a cooler, different Hatchet movie, I was like, let's shoot it all inside like a prison, like inside a cop station.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole take on that was, I was hoping, we'd start off just like we did. We find all the bodies, Mary Beth in the beginning, find all the bodies. We bring Victor Crowley's bones into this cop station, and his body, when the sun goes down, regenerates, and then he comes out. And then I basically wanted to make Terminator with Victor Crowley in a cop station. Mary Beth is in a cell. She has to get out somehow. Victor Crowley's wreaking havoc through this whole thing. It would have been scarier than shit.
Yeah.
Eventually he would, like before the morning comes up, he would, we'd go out into the streets, a short sequence or something. And I wanted my ending to be like seeing Victor Crowley walking, as the sun's coming up, all like, backlit and coming up through the trees, before he disappears, because he regenerates every night. Basically, he's walking, we're like kind of tracking with him. And then you wipe past a tree, he becomes young Victor Crowley as we're going. You pass another tree, he starts going into the water, like going up and down, 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 maybe past another tree, and then you see just like the ripples in the water, and that was kind of how I wanted to end that, which the only thing we did take out of that movie was the regeneration in the body bag. When we were talking about that, Adam wanted to keep it in a swamp. He wanted to keep it outside, do all that stuff, whatever. But the one thing we did keep from that idea was when the night fell, Victor Crowley's body regenerates in the bag of all his body parts, but that was my pitch that I wanted to do, but it didn't make it.
I would love a horror movie. Like, I want that movie.
Yeah, me too.
I would love
I think
that.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Well, even if it's not Victor Crowley, I would love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that the thing was, I was just kind of like, knowing that we didn't have a budget in the beginning before we, the movie was written, it's like, okay, we're going to have like a very small budget. And I always felt like if you contain it, then you can go wild. We could, and we could have shot a lot of that here in LA, like with the Slayer videos I did, they just shot the same prison, and we could have shot most of the movie there. And then we could have done the same thing we did with all the other Hatchet movies and gone down there and did the exteriors. But my idea, it didn't go through. Maybe one day, maybe someone will steal it.
I'm gonna harass Adam until he either blocks me or makes that move.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing to do. I feel that all fans should do that. They don't already, right?
Just harass people.
Yeah, to make the movie they want.
Yeah, I thought that would have been cool. But
yeah,
all in all, going out and doing it in the swamp, and actually going down there, I still feel like we made a really good looking, Hatchet film. And
it's the most beautiful of them.
I'm very happy. And I wanted to make sure that we were very, really visual with that whole thing. And that was the whole reason, going down there and doing it that way. And that was even shot with like a Red 1. I mean, this is like in the beginning stages of like when digital was just becoming a thing. And, now we have all these cameras that are like all these digital cameras that are just, we have, Arri Alexas, Minis, and then Red. I don't even know how many generations we are with Red. There's so many different versions, but we shot this with a Red 1 and my contacts at Panavision, because we use the right glass. That's what I also feel is very important. I wanted to shoot this with Panavision lenses, not with just like, regular lenses, because the glass is so important to get the look that you want for your movie. So Jen Kuwabara over at Panavision, she hooked us all up with that. We had Red cameras that were Panavized for the lenses, because you can't just put Panavision lenses on any regular camera. They have to actually be Panavized, because the housing is different. So we shot on Red 1s with Panavision lenses, and that's why we got the look that we got.
Ooh, that's clever. I always wondered why, because it feels more expensive and bigger in scope, and
it's the glass, and the location.
It's so beautiful. I'm gonna have to watch it again, because I remember I really love the look of it a lot.
Yeah. I thought we did, and even the editor, when he first started getting the dailies, was like, he's like, this is the Hatchet movie. He's like, holy crap, because he was the editor on the other ones too, so he was super pumped about it. But that's like any of the things that I do, I always try to go with Panavision with the glass, just because they've been good to me. All the Slayer videos I did, all Panavision. The movie I'm editing now, it's all Panavision. I try to keep it that way, because there's a certain look to it. You want it to look cinematic and big, and that's really, it's important, especially when you don't have money.
Exactly. I would say Carpenter kind of perfected that when he did like Escape from New York. I can't remember the lenses he shot on, but it's so it's so beautiful.
It's awesome.
Yes.
Well, he's such an inspiration for me. Like, just growing up, like that's what I grew up on. I remember like those movies were so inspirational, watching Carpenter films. So it's like he's just awesome, And The Thing, honestly, like that movie.
Your shirt.
Yeah,
exactly.
The Thing. It's my favorite sci-fi horror film. It's so well done, and it still holds up to this day. Escape from New York. My parents were so gnarly; they let me watch that stuff, or they didn't care. So I remember in kindergarten, I watched Escape from New York, and I was so obsessed with the Snake Plissken character. My parents worked, and they didn't really regulate what me and my sister watched. So we had HBO, and I was like, "Wow, that movie's amazing!" And like. That kind of molded where I wanted to go, I think.
You got a good taste already by then already. Knew what you liked.
Yeah, I'm happy with my taste in films now. So
yeah, you should be. You seem to have, both in games and movies, you seem to have like chef's kiss. Perfect.
Sometimes my choice in games, especially when you buy like a $60 game and you start playing it, and God, why did I spend the money on this? Before you ask somebody about it. But yeah,
that's the great thing about being like I'm the sometime reviewer. Matthias is like the one reviewing more of us two. But if a new game is like coming out, we can be like, could we like get a code for that one, because we could make a review for it. And sometimes it works, and we do a review. But some games, I'm so happy I didn't spend $60 on it.
Yeah,
I know. I've spent way too much money on games that like I'll play for 30 minutes to an hour and just be like, nope. And it just off to GameStop. I'm gonna go trade that one in. Unless I buy it online, then I'm screwed.
I've had kind of the same thing with movies as well. When I buy stuff from like Arrow or something like that, because they have a cool edition and they make the movie look really cool. And then when I actually watch it, kind of hurts because they aren't cheap.
Yeah.
So I realized, I spend so much money on a shitty movie.
Yeah, right. Oh man. Yeah, how much money we've all spent on just stuff that we're like, why did I do that?
Yep.
So, but I guess it's part of supporting the arts.
Yeah, precisely.
Yes. Right. So you can at least, if you feel sad about it, you can at least say, hey, at least I'm supporting that industry.
Yep.
That's actually the thing I kind of always try to tell myself when I buy something I maybe don't like a trauma movie. Again, if I don't like the movie itself, I have still supported a company I love.
Yeah.
Well,
I always enjoy trauma movies for the most part. They're so fun. They're so funny. That's the thing though. Like you gotta have that open mind about stuff. A lot of, some people that watch those kind of movies, or even just horror films in general, like a lot of them have their own taste. And they don't really expand their horizons when it comes to it. Some people get so mad about movies. You're like, you see these reviewers and you're like, you sit there and you go, all right, man, like you guys hated it. You guys bashed the shit out of this movie, and so many reviewers or so many things, you guys bashed this so hard. And I always want to, you want to write back and just say, show me the movie you made, hey, buddy, if you guys can review this film and talk about how the structure and blah, 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 this and that. Okay, cool. Well, guess what? Show me the movie you made. Because you know what? It takes more than just making a movie or making the structure. It's also called schedules, money. People don't understand the kind of crap that goes on sets. You might lose a whole day because something, breaks down or whatever, and you're not going to have the money to get that day back, But when the film's out, no one cares about those kind of things, and that's where you have to actually make the movie work. You have to make it work as best as you can because, that's what you got. You got a time schedule. And a lot of these people don't understand that kind of stuff. There's a lot more to making a movie than just making a movie. And reviewers, I don't think, really take that into consideration. Yeah, and like I said, show me the movie that you made before you go off and talk about how this is bad or this is so great or this and that, blah, blah, blah. I would respect more of a reviewer, that actually has some kind of filmmaking experience. Then I'd go, okay, cool. I respect that. Not the guy that got some kind of journalism degree or some cinema degree that just is mad because he didn't make a movie and they're out there just, ooh, I'm typing behind my keyboard. I can talk shit about this and that,
Exactly.
Have any of you seen Beyond the Valley of Dolls? It's a Russ Meyer movie, but the script is written by Roger Ebert, who was a famous movie reviewer. And the film is kind of a fictional depiction of a female rock band. And then it goes batshit insane towards the end. A guy all of a sudden gets all psycho on all the other characters and pulls out a sword, and he's an hermaphrodite, and and it's written by Roger Ebert.
Well, see, there you go. You're like, but hey, at least he wrote something.
Yeah, exactly.
So even right there, you go, okay, I trust that you can do something because you actually tried and you actually got in there. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. I learned something new today.
But I think that's actually like one of the most interesting things. I always respect a reviewer who has made or tried to make a movie. I've seen a lot of the Spiral now, like a lot of people talking shit about Spiral. And I don't like all the Saw movies, but they got made with such a limited budget. And I'm always in like having fun with them. At least I'm not gonna hate on something somebody made if it's not like offensive.
Yeah, I mean, look, you don't have to like the movie, but it's also, does it get you that angry that you're gonna have to just trash and shit talk it? It's pretty crazy. I mean, Saw 1, that was a really small budget, and James Wan did a killer job on that. I mean, the story was there.
Yes,
that was the great thing about that. And James is such a good filmmaker that he told a great story, and that ending was like, whoa, wow, And then you watch the other Saw movies, and like honestly, that I'm really good friends with Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton, who wrote a lot of that. You know, those are two of my good buddies. And I'm always like, why did you guys write that freaking scene with that pit of needles? Like, that's like the gnarliest.
Yeah.
That's still like in my opinion, that's like the gnarliest. I'm such a loser when it comes to needles. I'm always like, I'll go to the doctor and be like, you guys got to draw blood. I got to lay down because I'm going to pass out. Because I get myself worked up like such a wussy. And then seeing that scene was actually so horribly terrifying. I have to jump up the needle to get a key. It's like,
it's horrible.
It's one of the gnarliest things ever.
Yeah, you know? I agree. I completely agree.
So gnarly. Anyways, I don't know what's going with that. I just got excited about the pit of needles.
That's actually kind of fun because I'm a diabetic, so I always.
Oh God!
Yeah,
put that thing away.
I'm putting it away. I was scared of needles, and I'm still kind of am. But you know, I do it every day now, so it's kind of regular. But then all of a sudden, you realize what you're doing, and you kind of freak out a bit.
Oh boy, that would be so hard for me. You know, me and my wife, we have a dog who's diabetic, and every morning and every night I have to give him insulin. And so I like when the vet were like, "Oh, you have to give him shots." I was like, "What? Oh God!" So I got used to giving him shots. You know, so I can do it, but it's like if I know I'm getting a shot, it's totally sucks.
Jesus Christ! I was imagining like making a horror movie about diabetes now.
Oh God! There you go. See?
Yeah. It would be interesting, like freaky hallucinations when it's too low. Oh, okay. I'm gonna hush about that.
You might want to save that idea. That could be pretty good.
Yeah,
that's something new.
Yeah, it would be. I think it would be.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go over here to my computer over here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, just hold on 1 second.
Well, actually, when we spoke to Todd Farmer, he asked me about an idea I had, and I was so excited, like just talking to someone who asked me about it, who have written some cool stuff. So I did this, the worst pitch ever because it was kind of on the spot.
Right.
But it was so much fun. And then afterwards, I if he would steal it, I would be like, that's fine. He can make something good out of it. Yeah. But when I had told it, I was like, oh shit. I know that's a number one rule, never tell another writer what you're writing. But
I think honestly, it's so weird. I feel like sometimes people pitch stuff, and then when that thing's got pitched, then a couple of years later, you'll see that idea somewhere else in a movie. Like honestly, I've worked on a movie that got pitched to certain people, that I worked with those certain people, and I knew that pitch had happened. And then I worked on a movie that thing happened, and I would go back to my buddy and go, I just did this thing, and I swear to God, the thing that you pitched is now in this film. And it's so weird. And look, it happens. Yeah. People go, that's a good idea. Boop, boop, boop.
Well, I'm not saying that happened to me, but I think we talked about it short, like last time, because Fat Man came out last year.
Oh yeah,
Gibson movie. Yeah.
Yep.
One of the first shorts me and Matthias did was basically that premise.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. And I
love that movie.
Unfortunately,
it's not yours. It's not your premise, but I dug it.
I'm gonna have to see it. I think I got not bitter, but maybe a little bit resentful when I heard that it came out. And I was like, I'm not gonna pay for this right now. I'm gonna focus on other stuff.
Did you know anyone that happened to be a part of that?
No, sadly, no. Otherwise, I would be like, okay, cool. They stole my idea. You
sons of bitches. It's funny because I saw Mel Gibson at the Whole Foods by my house like a year or two ago. And I swear to God, is when he was shooting that, because I remember I walked in. He's short. I didn't realize he was short. He's pretty short, and he turned around. He had this big beard, and he was super tan. And I just remember he had this look on his face, like he had this like smile. And I just remember being like, "Oh my God, it's Braveheart," and he walked up, but he had that huge beard, and I feel like that they were like either getting ready to shoot it or had shot it. I mean, I don't know. It looked like he was in the middle of doing that. It's kind of funny. Jeez. It's weird how where I live in California. I live in Malibu. I see people all the time that like, you're like, oh, that's so-and-so, so it's always weird. I don't get starstruck, but I just was like, wow, that was kind of funny.
Well, yeah, sometimes it isn't about being starstruck as much as seeing Mel Gibson with a big smile and a big beard being tanned.
Yeah, I mean, he was like right in front of me. I remember he just turned and I was like, oh, whoa, Mel.
Good day to you, sir.
Yeah, well, there you go. Freedom.
You should like have walked in another aisle and just freedom and see it like, who said that?
Freedom. Yeah, right. He'd be like, turn and look at that face and the beard. Pretty funny.
Now I want Braveheart 2. They kind of made Braveheart 2 with Angus McFadden. It's his character from Braveheart. I can't remember the name. But I'm actually gonna do a little quick check because
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I don't think anyone does because like came and went. It's so weird.
Because I will say the one time I got starstruck. Now we're talking about being starstruck. I'm thinking about it. Is I met Hans Zimmer. Like,
okay.
And that's like a weird thing to get starstruck by. A lot of people are like, oh, it's an actor or it's so-and-so. But like I was on this, we were doing this Pirates of the Caribbean like offshoot thing that wasn't the movie, but it was like this like weird short film that was related to it, Jack Sparrow and all that crap. And I was doing something and I remember hearing like one of the producers talking to somebody else and going, oh, hey, I want you to meet my friend Hans. And I heard that and I was like, and I looked over and there he was. And I looked at my AC and I was like, oh my God, it's Hans Zimmer. I'm such a movie score person. When I write, I listen to movie scores, and he's amazing. And my friend Lewis was like, go say hi, and I was like, oh, no, I can't. And so my asshole AC buddy walked over and was like, Hans, I have a friend who loves all your stuff. You got to meet him. And Hans kind of came over and was like, oh hi. And I remember being like that typical loser, like, hi, I really like your movie scores. Like that was like the only time I really ever got starstruck was because of him. And I just remember him being like, thanks.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, stupid.
It's always fun, but I can imagine people being like, oh yeah, that's I think Todd actually had a story about that. When we published that interview, you can listen to it because it's kind of fun because he got recognized during the pandemic when he wore a mask.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he told us that he kind of freaked him out because it's like, now of all times.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It is weird.
Yeah. Todd's a good dude.
Yeah, he really
is
great.
He's had quite the journey.
Yes.
Yes.
He's awesome though. What a really nice human.
Yeah, we actually talked about a bit about gaming as well with him. So it's fun hearing that people game a bit. Because
well, they're better than movies at this point. I mean, the fact that you have these games that have a storyline, they're so well done, and you're paying for basically your choices in this movie that's in front of you, and not only that, but you can finish this game, you can go back in for some of these games and you can redo it again a whole different way and it'll be a whole different outcome. That's the great thing about these video games that are coming out now. It's just the storylines are so good, the gameplays are so good, and it's just like it's a time suck. It'll suck you in, as you know, but it's so fun. Me and my wife just beat Resident Evil Village, and I loved it, man. I thought it was so much fun. I like where they went with this.
Nice.
Yeah. I actually since our last talk, I actually got Resident Evil 7 on the PS4, so I'm going to get into it. I promised you I would.
Yeah, you got to play that one before you play 8 because it carries over. So it's important.
Yeah. I've heard it. A lot of people have been talking oh, it's because of this, and I'm like, no. If I'm gonna play it, I don't want to know anything.
Yeah, you don't want to know anything. You just got to get in there and go for it and play it because it's so fun. And just what they did with Village is so cool. I was never a huge Resident Evil fan. I just kind of got into it with 7. And I tried to play the other ones, but it didn't really grab me. But 7 was awesome, and I think it's just so much. It had like a different element to it in the way it was done. It was, I have nothing really to compare it to other than what I would see videos online. But I felt like it was more of a horror base compared to the other ones. I felt like the other ones were more of a zombie thing.
Yeah, right? It's much more action focused. Big monster thing, shoot it. It's action.
Yeah. Well, and this one, it was more. It felt really scary, And 7 was tough because it kind of took a little bit of the, I think, action element out of it. It was more like solving it. Where I think as 8 kind of mixed it all together, where you have that same thing, but you also have more of the action. You get more weapons and things like that, I guess, like the other ones did. So it was a lot of fun.
I'm really looking forward to checking them both out.
It's a whole different experience, but they're just, it's a continuation story. So I think you'll dig it.
Yeah, I just finished one of the games I sent you the link for, Amnesia.
Yep.
The first one I actually finished like for the first time just the other day, and I was yelling a bit. It was no.
You did.
Yeah.
I watched you play for a bit.
It was so much fun. It's like 10 years old, and still it's terrifying. And that game has such an interesting like development history. Like the company almost went bankrupt, and they had like a month before they were like, oh, we're gonna just shut our doors if we don't make any money. And then they went on and inspired Resident Evil 7 kind of, because first person horror. Yeah.
I told my wife about that game that you sent me, and I made the mistake. I said, it's kind of like Outlast. And because I thought that she liked Outlast, and she's like, oh, no. She's like, Outlast made me so mad. All you did was hide the whole time. I was like, well, we played Alien Isolation, and we hid a lot in that game too. She goes, no, we got weapons in the end, which we did. But it was still most of it was a hiding game, like the androids and all that stuff. Yeah. And I loved that one. She loved that one. But when I brought this one up, she was kind of like, if it's like that, no, I don't want to play it. So I might be doing that one on my own.
Oh, okay. Oh no. Oh, yeah, it's. I heard somebody refer to it like as a hide 'em up.
Oh, nice.
I really enjoy that one.
That's a good term for a game like that. Yeah.
Right. It is. I can't remember who said it, but it was yeah.
I like that. I'll have to tell my wife if it's a hide 'em up game, I'll be playing those by myself.
Oh, it's so sad because like all the Amnesia games are pretty damn great, but you can't defend yourself. So
I think, my wife loves that you can at least have some kind of defense or weapon. So, and we play them together. So that's the hard part. Is like if I try to go off on my own and like do some game on my own, it's like then she'll just have to sit there until I'm done by watching this and just being like,
oh no.
She plays Fallout by herself, and she, I enjoy watching that, but I played Fallout 4 with her and I enjoyed it. But she got into Fallout 76 where everybody hated that game and she enjoyed it. And I guess they really expanded it to where it's gotten more of like a Fallout game. So she, her character is ridiculous now, and she was playing it since the beginning. So I don't even play it. When she wants to turn that on, I'll just sit there and watch her play, and just like, if she's stuck, I'll get my iPad out and try to figure things out on YouTube. I become the co-pilot at that point.
That's actually what we try to be for each other as well. If we like stream to each other, and I might be yelling and running around and just trying to survive, and Matthias goes like, no, you're gonna have to turn right. Well, when? Because I have ran through like 3 rights now.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's fun to have the co-pilot in the video game though. Sometimes it makes it a little bit easier.
It actually, yeah,
precisely.
Robert De Bruce was the name of the Braveheart spin-off thingy.
I have never heard of that.
Nope.
It came out like in 2019, so I don't know if it doesn't have the best ratings, but it could be fun, I guess.
Well, maybe I have to check that out. Video games and during all that stuff, video games and just watching crazy politics happen. I was out of my mind, furious about politics. So.
Oh
yeah.
Actually, during like the 2016 election, I really after that I just got into games even more. Yes, I don't want to
tune it out.
Yeah.
Well, it was tough, that's for sure. Watching the world go the way it went. So I'm glad that things seem to be going a little better now. I do know that I feel like I have not to talk politics, because it'll, some people are going to agree, some people will hate me after this, but whatever. We all have our own views on it, but I just remember it just feels like a big burden was lifted off my shoulders after this election. and watching the news and watching the things that were going on in this country was just brutal. Like I absolutely it was like, is this ever going to end? Where there was a point in time where I'd wake up every morning and go, what did he say now? Or what is going on now? Or what's happening now? Now I kind of like, okay, I don't have to do that every single day because it just got so ridiculous,
Yeah.
Anyways.
Even we got like affected by it. And like, what did he say?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
totally insane. So I'm glad there's a breath of fresh air right now, even, whatever, but it ain't over. We'll see what happens. We'll see. So well, who knows?
Again, just crossing my fingers and hoping for that. Well, it could be worse, I guess.
Well, it's bad when you see other countries too going, what the hell is going on over there? What is going on with you guys? And, I grew up in the southern states and, when you're in California or if you've lived in California a long time, you're or like in certain parts of California, there's other parts that aren't, but you're kind of in a bubble here where it's like, well, how is this even happening? And like touring with the punk band in the 90s, I remember just going all over the United States and up into Canada and all these other places and touring. And you would see the different types of like people, and all I could tell my wife at the time was like, well, a lot of America is kind of that way. Unfortunately, it's very sad. And where I grew up, it was very much like that. So it's just, it's a crazy world, crazy country.
Yeah, I just have one more thing that I just have to like talk to an American about, because do you remember when he said, just look at what happened last night in Sweden?
No, I don't remember that. What?
Okay, yeah, he said that during some speech.
Oh.
And like all Swedes were like,
what happened?
What?
Nothing happened.
Nope.
And it was like, look at what happened. I think it was about immigration or something. And all of us were like,
what is he talking about? What does he know that I don't know? Who actually lives in this country? What?
Yeah, it was so weird.
It's what I was blown away by was the fact that you can blatantly lie on live TV and you own it and you just say, or, there's video of you doing this one thing and you go, that's not what I did. And you can get away with it. What the hell? I couldn't get away with that, but I guess it's a certain conscience or certain mentality you have to have or own it. I don't get it. But it also shows how much people can get away with.
Yeah.
It's scary, actually.
It's extremely scary, That's another reason why those Slayer videos I did what I did, because I hate all that racism shit. And I hate all that stuff. And so I, based that on all that after I did to write those videos. It was a very political thing. And those videos were made before all this went on.
That's true.
Yeah.
Damn.
It was like the year before all this was going on. Look, it's always been going on. But, we wrote it before Operation Crazy Town happened.
Operation.
So it kind of went with the times, I guess, in a weird way.
Yes.
Well, they usually say that like the best kind of music comes when the world is in disarray, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess those music videos were kind of a prelude to the craziness that would come.
Mm-hmm.
But because they are.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
I never saw that happen. Like I said, I grew up in the South. I've seen all that, because it does exist. It was weird how things kind of came out more in the open during these last 4 years, which is absolutely horrifying. It shows you how people's beliefs in that stuff, and it's just brutal. So, I'm just against all that shit, So it was interesting how that went and how those videos were kind of proper for the time, but not intentional.
Mm-hmm. But it fit in perfectly because they kind of feel like a nice little gut punch, all three of them.
Yeah.
So because we kind of gonna have to do this boring interview thing. But would you explain more about the Killogy videos? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we talked about this last time, so I'll go back into that again. So,
Yeah,
You must be so bored talking about it, but
it's interesting because some people don't know the stories behind it, and so it's always, you always get new listeners. So it's basically I'll do a crash course of how this all went.
Yeah,
please.
Basically, Slayer was looking for a horror director, someone to make a new Slayer video for the new album. So they, Nuclear Blast was interviewing people, and I went in and met with Gerardo over Nuclear Blast without anything prepared, nothing. I walked in, I was like, okay, so, let's talk about it. And we were talking about what was going on in the album and things like that. And they were kind of getting my idea on what to do. So my pitch was, hey, look, man, like, MTV isn't the staple music video thing anymore. It's just not. So you have YouTube. So in my opinion, the Slayer videos never felt like a Slayer video to me. It always, like the one video I love, and I always forgot what song it is, but it's when they're at the pyramids, and I love that video, and that's a cool video. But when I was saying, if we're gonna make a Slayer video, now that we don't have the MTV censorship kind of deal, let's make a Slayer video. Let's make something that's gonna punch you in the dick. Let's make something that's gonna make you want to drive your car through houses and be like, ah, you know what I mean? That's what when I hear Slayer, that's what I want. So I went home and I wrote these 2 pitches for Repentless. I got the song, and I wrote these 2 ideas. So the first one was a really expensive video. It would have cost a fortune, but it was like this, satanic biker gang out in the desert, like old gas stations, bodies hanging from the tops of the gas stations, basically like a guy trying to like save, a girl that gets kidnapped from these satanic biker dudes. And it was like this whole crazy thing, bikes, knives, guns, going down into this like, chamber down in the middle of the desert, all this crazy stuff. It would have cost a fortune. The second pitch was the prison riot. Again, maybe it was like the whole pitch I had for the Hatchet 3 thing. It always kept me going, yeah, let's do that. But, the whole thing was there's a guy that needs to get to a certain cell block, and the only way to get what he wants is to cause a prison riot. And no cares in the world, Repentless, no cares of how he does it. So he starts a riot just to get to that side, to get what he needs, which is Derek Muir's head. And that was a simple pitch. That one was the lower budget. Like we can, the money we have, we can do this. So the guys read both of them and they loved both of them. But, with what we had money wise, it's like, let's do the prison one. So we did the prison one. And it was brutal. Like we shot for 2 days. One day was just all the band. It was scorching hot. And the first day was all, performance stuff, all the storyline stuff, all the prison stuff. Second day was the band performance. So we got that whole thing done, put it together, and when Repentless came out, people went bonkers for it, and they loved it. And Gerardo was just like, "Look, man, that video was so awesome, and the guys are so happy, and it actually was great for the record sales. Let's make a storyline. All right, let's do that. So let's make a prequel, let's make a sequel." So I had to take that Repentless video, and I had to come up with a storyline. So then I was like, all right. So then I went into it more in depth about, the division, like diversity and an ex-Nazi, basically going against his group of people who, he fell in love with an African-American woman, was getting ready to have a baby with her, all that kind of stuff, basically going that route. First, but the video for You Against You, I wanted to do a different take. So we had the prison riot. You Against You, I wanted to make a more of an action kind of thing that starts the whole storyline out. So I wanted it to be more like a John Wick kind of thing. And then the third video, Pride and Prejudice, I wanted it to be more of a darker in tone, dramatic piece, still with the Slayer action, still with how I feel the Slayer videos should go with the gore and everything like that. But telling a story through emotions, through facial things that are happening or what's happening on screen, because there's no dialogue. We're not talking. We're doing it through, what you see, emotions on just people's faces. And so that's how those videos kind of came. And we shot those videos, one out in the desert for You Against You at an airplane graveyard too for the performance. And then we went up to Wrightwood, California by a ski place called Mount High, which is not that far. And we shot the whole band performance there for that video. And it was hard. It's like I put those guys in such shitty conditions but they were such troopers. It was like scorching hot for Repentless.
Yeah.
You know, You Against You, when they were shooting, it was super windy and dry and just gnarly out in the desert. You can see it in the videos. And then Pride and Prejudice was just freezing cold snow. No one was prepared for that. And the night before, we didn't have any snow. We were like, oh, what are we going to do? We had like these little patches, you know, and we're like, oh, we were supposed to have like all this snow. And luckily, and amazingly how it worked is that we had a huge storm come in the night before shooting. And it blew snow all over the place. So we got super lucky with that. We almost lost all Slayer's gear. The guys bringing it up, like, lost control of the truck. So I was almost responsible for all Slayer's equipment going bye-bye off a cliff.
Whoa.
Yeah. Luckily, it made it.
Yeah.
So anyways, all three of those videos came together and the storyline was great. Well, then Gerardo was like, look, let's get ready for the next album. You know, so let's make an idea. Let's make like a trailer for the next album that carries this story over into the next album. Oh, great. So we wrote this trailer, right? And it was supposed to go really fast, you know, like a little bit of a storyline. So we wrote basically the Killogy, which was not supposed to be a movie, by the way, if anyone, you know, it wasn't supposed to be a movie. It was supposed to be a trailer. That's why there's hardly dialogue. It was supposed to be montage of just Jason being like, where's Luther? You know, and they're like, oh no, boom. And he goes to the next person, where is he? You know, and then it gets to the ending as a trailer. Well, we shot the whole thing, you know, the whole thing was shot, you know, and as we're sitting there editing, me and Ed, all of a sudden we get this thing that pops up from Nuclear Blast, Slayer's final campaign. Oh, we're calling it quits. Yeah. We're like, whoa, what? Okay. And we're like literally sitting there at the editing bay, like, so I called Gerardo and we talk about it. He's like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. So then we came up with the game plan. It's like, okay, we'll take all the footage we did and we'll shoot a live concert in LA when they do that. And we'll just kind of combine it, it's cool. The shots we did are awesome. And I like what we did. But if I would have known that it was going to be a movie, we would have wrote it more like a movie. It would have made a little bit more sense, you know, in that aspect. And right now, if you know that story and you watch it now, you can tell like we were just making a trailer in a weird way, you know, and we kind of had to expand it to make it look more like a movie that added on to the live performance stuff, you know. And I love the shots we did. We concentrated on a lot of really neat shots and all that stuff, but it was never intended to be a movie, you know, and that's what the Repentless Killogy is. And unfortunately, we'll never be able to tell the rest of the story, you know, because we had Jessica Pimentel came in as a new character at the end. She was, we're going to have a whole thing with her. Jason and Danny Trejo's character, we were going to have a whole thing with them, you know, going off and coming up with these ideas and going more into more fight sequences and going more in depth of like people they were going after. It was like going to be a whole thing, you know, satanic cult shit. I would maybe go into more of that kind of stuff, but yeah, unfortunately, that was the end of it, and now we don't have another story to tell. So that's the hardest part is like knowing that you had something, that we were going to do something, and you can't now. You can't finish it, you know, and you're like, oh.
That makes me upset.
Yeah, that's the story.
Yeah, kind of.
Whatever. Hey, we were out. We did it. You know, and that's it came out and we're good. And I'm happy with like a lot of the stuff that we did, but I just wish I would have known it was going to be a movie, not a trailer. So yeah, there you go.
But you speaking about beautiful shots, because they are very beautiful, but it reminds me about a Hatchet 3 thing, if I remember this correctly. And it could be fun, I guess, to talk about when you blow up the house. Mm-hmm. Did it I don't remember how many cameras you shot with, but didn't all of them go out except for the GoPro?
No, that was a different shot. That's when we. Shot. So we what happened was when we blew up Victor Crowley the first time, like when Mary Beth shoots him and his whole skeleton explodes, which was awesome. Yes. That was all you know. That was all right there in the swamp when we did that. And right when that happened, I don't know what it was. The Red One cameras had this external hard drive that used to be on this weird spring mount, you know, to help with concussion because they couldn't handle it. And so when that thing blew up, all the cameras went out, and that was it. which was a super bummer. And we were almost done making the movie. And so in order, and coming down to budget wise stuff, you know, it was a whole thing to redo another explosion. And we couldn't go back to the swamp because we were basically done there. And we couldn't set the fire in the background. So we basically had a plate shot that we stole of just an empty shot that we just, luckily we had it like, you know, after, you know, things happened of the house back there. Then we had to shoot the whole thing on green screen, which is such a bummer, you know, because we originally it was all live, and that's the thing that people don't, again, going back to the things that people don't realize when you're making a movie is shit like that happens, you know. It would have been so much better looking had it not, the concussion hadn't knocked out the cameras. But that's what happened. So we had to redo it on green screen. And, you know, you got to make it work. Again, you have to make it work. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Well, I can't remember that it like you know, pokes me in the eye by being on a green screen. So I guess it works. It works. Yeah. And look, like I wish we could have done things a lot better with that stuff. But again, it's budgetary, it's time. When we blew the house up, that was because the cameras were so far away. That was more of like just, you know, it was gas bags exploding, the whole, you know, we were so far away from that the concussion didn't really affect the cameras. When we blew up Victor Crowley's skeleton at the end, we were pretty close to that in the different areas, and that's why it knocked it all out. So that's, yeah, it was a bummer losing that stuff. There was a lot of moments like that on Hatchet 3 that you're just like, oh God, you know. But we blew up Victor Crowley's house, and that was something I wanted to do. I was very happy about that. It's like the perfect ending and ties a nice little bow on the whole trilogy, actually. Yeah, right? Yeah, I thought it was cool. Let's just do that. And originally in the scripts, because there's the director's cut, which came out. It's not my cut. Because in my cut, Mary Beth dies. Like, you see her die. Like, we don't cut back to her going like that. That wasn't my cut. We actually had a whole very dramatic push in where you see her actually go. And I lost that battle also. So there you go. I killed Mary Beth, but now she's not dead, I guess. Even though she got killed by a tree branch. God damn it. That would have been perfect. I would love that ending. It's like the whole story arc of Mary Beth and Crowley would have been like. Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. It was awesome because the camera it continued that push in on her. You know, you see her sitting there struggling for her last breaths. Camera's pushing in, you know, and it ended right over the top of her. And just, you saw her like, and then she just faded out. And there was this lovely tear that just came out of Danielle's eye. It was really awesome. And then it just, boom, cut the black. And that was the credits rolled. It was awesome.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Yeah. Am I going to have to make a fan edit?
I know. Well, that's the thing with making movies. You know, it's not always your decision. It's a political game you have to play. Also, you have to know how to. You know, you have to roll with other people's ideas. You know, and that's one of the hardest things. You know, that people don't get unless you're actually making your own movie with your own money and all that stuff. You can shoot the movie you want to make. You know, but when it comes down to it and people have their ideas and their notes of what they think is going to be better, it comes down to that kind of stuff where you have to actually play the political game and roll with it. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, you know, and that's just the way it goes in this business, you know? Yeah, there's actually a quote I really love. That's like, you should be happy if you get like 30% of your vision. Yeah. And that's like perfect. Well, and the more hands in the cookie jar too, it's just hard. It's hard because you just, you know, you might have something you're so passionate about. And that one thing you might be very passionate about, maybe the total opposite of what someone else is passionate about. And in the end, you know, you might get it, you might not. You just have to be prepared for losing that you know, that vision or whatever sequence you wanted or whatever it is. But you also have to, it's a good learning experience of being able to roll with it or how you're going to shoot the movie where there are no other options. You shoot it. So now I've learned that now. You shoot things the way you want to shoot it. And if you know there's going to be a certain issue, don't shoot it the other way. You know, you can do that. Or you shoot it both ways, you know, and then, you know, you really have to know who you're working with at that point.
I'm pretty amazed over a old movie called To Live and Die in LA. I think it's by William Friedkin. I think so, at least. I love the movie, but the movie ends with the main character getting shotgun blasted in the face.
Yeah.
And I remember a story about the producers being really angry at him because now they couldn't make a sequel.
Yeah.
And I like to wonder, I wonder if you could pull that off today because they like to make sequels of things, and how he made that ending stay in the movie. What he told the producers or something.
Well, Billy is a character. Billy's he's quite the guy. You know, I did Killer Joe with him, and watching him work was very crazy and awesome at the same time. You know, very old school. You know, he didn't have chairs on set so no one could sit. You know, he knew what he wanted. That was the most impressive thing with Billy, is he knew what he wanted, because he had the actors so trained and ready to go by the time they came in that me and my AC Tommy and Caleb, the DP, we basically knew which way we were looking, and we'd go through it with, like, you know, basically what Caleb saw, what Billy had set up with the actors. We basically set up to be able to pan around anywhere in the room to catch it, because we knew we'd only get one or maybe two tries at it. And if you didn't get it perfectly, he'd be like, "That was great, Mo." You know, he calls everybody Mo. "That was great, Mo. Why do we need another take? You know, we're moving on." You know, so the whole job, we had to be completely on our toes with that one. And it was, and on that again, it was a cool lesson to learn, because he really had his actors ready to go. They came in, they would rock it out. Me and Tommy had pre-mapped the room in each scene in the trailer or wherever it was, and we knew, Tommy knew where his measurements were in case an actor went there or there, or I had to go over here or go over there, panning. And it was a weird way to shoot a movie, but it came out awesome. And he really, impressively worked with the actors really well with that. But he was interesting to watch, His old school technique, I don't think would fly nowadays, but I want to.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me, actually, you had like the one of the greatest stories about Werner Herzog as well.
Oh,
I would love for you to tell it again, because if we lose that, I would cry.
Was that the Jack Reacher one?
Yeah, it was the Jack Reacher one.
So on Jack Reacher, Werner Herzog was the bad guy, and it's amazing to watch, because most actors, when they come, and Werner's he's a director, so it's different. But most actors, they'll come on set, they'll do their thing, and how much time do I got? I'm gonna go back to my trailer, and they're gone, right? Okay, not Werner. He would sit right behind me. I'd be on the camera and dolly, he'd be right behind me watching what's going on, and he was always checking out the techniques of what was going on. Well, there was this one scene, because we were shot in Pittsburgh and it was so cold, but Tom was in the rain. And it was, Tom had a wetsuit on, and his body heat was just like emitting the steam was coming off of him. Like his whole body was just steaming. And I remember Werner got very excited, and I kept hearing him. He goes, "Oh my God." He's like, "In my next film, I'm going to have a scene where it's just nothing but fighting and steaming, fighting and steaming." And he got really pumped about that. I just thought that was like the best thing ever, like hearing him behind me, like talking about that. But literally, he's like right there watching, and that was 35. So I had my eye in the eyepiece of the camera, because, it's like digital, you can use the monitors. But we had a monitor on there, for Tommy's focus. And Werner was right next to us the whole time watching the techniques. And that's what he does. I've worked with him on a few jobs, and he watches what other filmmakers do. Kind of like going back to what I was saying, how I've learned from other directors and other crew members, like certain things that work and don't. He actually still to this day will watch what crew or directors are doing and see the technique of that stuff. He also told us about how he was training his camera operator to walk up and down a ladder with a camera, like a 4 foot, like a four step, and like walk over and walk down it. And he's like, "Yes, I'm going to have my I put them through a training course where they have to like keep frame and walk up a ladder and down a ladder." And I was just like, "Oh, cool, man.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. I'm tall. I'm clumsy. I'm a Steadicam guy." He's awesome, though.
Yeah, he seems to be really awesome, because he just seems like a laid-back kind of guy that makes his things. Like all of his documentaries are so fascinating because he always finds like the people who cares about these odd things and just lets them talk. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. It's also like, and I always find it like his voice is so weirdly soothing. It's just listening to him talk is like, you can just sit there for hours and just listen. Wow, that's pretty cool. And it's just like, his voice, something to do with that. Like, it's just like, it's just different, you know? And when he tells the stories, it's just interesting to hear his voice. Unlike mine, I sound like hey, everybody. You know? I wish I had that cool accent.
That's the great thing. Germans sound kind of cool, but when Swedes try to talk English, it most often sounds pretty bad. I wouldn't say that we're great, but we don't sound like we're talking like this, because this is the typical Swedish accent talking English.
Right.
So, no. I was kind of worried when David Sandberg, that you worked with a lot, actually, when he began to do like BTS and stuff, and I was like, please don't sound like a moron. And he didn't, and I was so happy.
Yeah, he's awesome, you know, and it's fun to watch his whole, like, his videos, because he's actually like showing like filmmaking and what he does, and like kind of giving away this like certain secrets and things like that, like how to do this or that, or, you know, he even gives away like mistakes that he's made, which is like, you know, I find it respectful for people that go in and they make something and they're actually, you know, they come out and go, oh, by the way, you know, this is what happened here. This totally didn't work, but we made it work, and this is how, you know. That's even with like reviews or whatever. It's like, you know, when I have reviews for things I've done, I post the good ones and I also post the bad ones. You know, it's funny because it's like you got to accept all of it. And the good thing is you develop a certain bulldog skin towards all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't, you know, he's super successful, and it's fun to watch him because he's not so like, let's go guys, blah, blah, blah. He's very quiet. He's very like, there's a certain tone about him that's kind of interesting. You know, it's like he gets in there, knows what he wants, he does his thing, and we move on. And he's also very collaborative, which is fun because he'll do something, I'll be like, you know, or me or the deep hero, but hey, you know, hey David, what if we tried this? You know, this way might work a little better. He'll be like, oh yeah, well, let's try that. And we do it. And he's, you know, I love that. The collaboration on sets with certain people, that's always great. You know, so somebody's like, this is what I want, done, you know.
No, I really think
you're more of the process.
Yeah.
You know, you're part of more of the filmmaking.
That's the thing, because like, of course there's exceptions, but filmmaking is never like one person. It's like, it's everyone coming together and making something.
Yeah, well, you tell that to some people. Some people think it's just all about the one person. You know, there's many like that. But, you know, I think the more successful people are the people that actually surround themselves with the people that they know are going to make something great. You know, and that's even with what I do. I try to surround myself with the people I know that are going to get the job done and do it right. You know, and it's I always feel like when I don't do that, or I felt like I've listened to someone's like suggestion on somebody and I don't feel good about it, but I let it happen, you know, which is my fault. I feel like that has hosed me in the past with certain things, because they just didn't, if I knew someone could bring something to the table and I didn't get to bring that person on, and I went with someone's suggestion that I felt weird about, then it has bit me in the ass. You know, there was a certain, like the Slayer video, for instance, when we were up, I don't know if I told you about this on the last one, but we were up doing that one in the snow, right? And originally I wanted these big upside down burnt crosses stabbed into the ground, right? With like barbed wire all wrapped around them, all like three crosses, like, you know, Jesus and the two men, but they were all going to be kind of crooked and weird. I wanted those behind Slayer in the woods. And originally those crosses going in, that's where the blood was going to be coming out of the snow. It's like the crosses pierced the ground. The snow was like, blood was going to come out of those crosses, not the instruments. So I kept asking this prop guy that I didn't really, you know, I wasn't my call. And I said, hey, can I see the crosses? Yeah, I'm working on. You're going to love them. We're almost getting ready to shoot. Can I see what you've done? I just need to like make sure it's the right thing and we can make some notes. Don't worry, man. They're going to be ready when we get up there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Oh. All right. I'll trust you then. Great. Mm-hmm. cut to, we get up to the mountains. It's tragic. You know, the day was so hard. We almost lost all that stuff. Time's ticking because in the mountains, the sun's going down sooner. And the guy shows up with these crosses. And I look at the crosses, and they look like these brand new crosses that are going to go on a brand new church. They're like beautiful hardwood crosses, you know, like something would go on like a new Baptist church steeple. And I'm like, well, where's the barbed wire and why aren't they burnt up? Like they were supposed to look totally crispy and gnarly, like from hell. And he's like, well, this is what I had. I'm like, well, I talked to you about these. Like I wanted this. Well, you know, excuse. So I'm so frustrated at that point. I go, okay. I said, so here's the other thing. How are you going to put those out there? And he's like, well, I'm just going to dig a hole and bury him. I go, all right, go ahead. Give it a try. And I know that the ground is frozen, you know? And so he goes out where everyone's waiting. He's out there with a shovel and he's trying to pierce. He's like, I can't get the thing to work. I'm like, get rid of the crosses because those aren't going in there. I have a picture of me like of my buddies, of me out there trying to hold a cross and yelling back at the DP, goes, does this look okay? And he's just like, no. And I'm like, forget it. Get rid of the crosses. So the blood that I had, which me and my wife mixed here at my house because she's a makeup artist, I had all this blood ready for that. And so I just said, you know what? We have all these containers of blood. I said, let's just make the blood come out of the instruments. So we just started spraying all the blood where the instruments. So in the video, the blood on the snow coming from the instruments, that's what that became. But they were supposed to be these upside down crosses, you know, and that goes back to, you got to trust the people you hire. And then and if certain people, you know, you get a gut feeling and you just trust someone saying, my guy's great, then it bites you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All in all, it turned out fine, but still it's like, I wanted that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks beautiful. It's nothing, you know, we have thought about it because we don't see the crosses at all, but now I'm going to miss that.
Yeah. But that's, again, going back to people don't understand what happens behind the scenes, like we talked about. Yeah. So now you know what was supposed to be there, it isn't there anymore, and that's just the way it goes. So, you know, trust your gut when you're making your film. Surround yourself with the people you know are going to do the good job, because if you hire the people that are awesome and the people you know are going to get it done, it's only going to make you look better, and it's only going to help you out in the long run.
Yeah, actually.
I mean, it's really smart.
It reminds me of when I made like the short that Trauma picked up. They picked up 3 of our shorts, but like the particular one, I had never worked with 2 of the guys who were on set. Right. So we went up there and it was like snowy and cold, and like 2 weeks before I had sent like my first draft. It makes sense soon enough. Like my final draft, and the guy says, oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to make these effects. I'm like, oh, well, you could have told me when you read the first draft of this version. So I had to like rewrite a lot of it, and I sent it to him, and I expected that he had read that one, and I had, taken out a lot of those effects.
Yeah.
So when I arrived on set, he had like started making some of the things from the first version. And then I asked him, like, didn't you read? I saw that you saw the message. So didn't you like read the second draft or like the new version? Right. Yeah, no. We're just going to shoot what we have, because he was one of the producers as well. And I was like, this is not going to be a good shoot. It really, because he didn't give me time to like fix the sound or audio or anything, so everything sucked. But
going back to that, you had to make it work, right?
Exactly. So just make it look like an old Grindhouse movie and dub the shit.
There you go.
Yes, and it worked.
It's like Bad Taste. That movie, Bad Taste.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just all ADR. I love that. I think it's hilarious.
Oh, that's like one of the first movies I saw that really inspired me.
Oh my god, dude! When they blew the goat up with that rocket launcher, I laughed so hard. Like I was like, that was it. That movie was so hilarious, and it's amazing to see, like, where Peter Jackson from that to wow. It's
Yeah.
like,
He's been talking about like a 4K Blu-ray of his earlier movies, like Bad Taste, Feebles, and Brain Dead.
Yeah.
I hope, but I can't, like, he won't make any money on that, really, I think.
I don't think he cares.
I hope he doesn't, because I really want those movies.
Yeah, I think he's good money-wise. I think he's just hanging out in Mordor with tons of cash. He basically owns New Zealand.
Right. It kind of feels like it.
Kind of awesome, though. I mean, it's neat to see someone progress like that. You know, it's cool. I think it's awesome, especially from like a movie like that. Because I remember watching it, go, "What is going on? This is so awesomely bad, but it's awesome." You know, so I enjoyed that one.
Did you see like Forgotten Silver?
Mm-mm.
Do that.
I actually haven't seen that one either.
You haven't yet?
Okay. No,
because it's like, I think it's the one movie he did before. It was a lot of pre-production before the Rings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's like a mockumentary.
So was it before or after The Frighteners?
That's the one thing I can't remember, but I think it's after. And it's so good. It's like one of my favorites of his.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I haven't seen that. That's awesome.
Yeah, if I may recommend something, it's
Thank
that
you.
one. Yeah.
I will check that out for sure.
Cool. So we have talked for about 1.5 hours.
Yes.
It's amazing. And I think we could talk for a whole lot more, but you had some work to do in like half an hour?
Yeah, I have to jump off here. I'm actually editing a film right now, so I'm going.
I thought you were sitting.
I was writing this morning a thing that I'm trying to do, and then doing this and doing editing now, and then all in all, with dude, my plate is overly full. It's out of control.
So we're even more happy and thankful that you actually could do this again.
Yeah. Hey man, it's a pleasure. A lot of fun just sitting and talking. I need that. You got to break away from this shit.
Awesome.
Like it resets your brain.
Kind of
just looking at the same thing over and over. For people who haven't edited before, it will after a while you just sit there and go, okay,
basically have no idea how the world looks outside, and then oh yes, green.
Yeah,
I have somewhat of a window open, sort of there. I can hear people outside.
Yeah, I have a video project for the homepage that we are doing the podcast for, and I told Emil that I have forgotten how much time you lose when you edit stuff.
Yeah, because I edit.
See, I'm terrible at editing. I have to have an editor because going back to film school, I learned how to cut and splice film together, and for me, even with my camera reel, it takes me 2 weeks to make like a 2-minute reel of just how do I get this footage from this, and then how do I just make these things? I'm terrible at it. So, and look, it's my fault for not sitting down and just hunkering down and learning it. But, again, I'll go back to, you get the people, you surround yourself with the people that do the right things. Exactly. And I've got that person right now. And so you watch them do their work because they're going to see things that I don't see necessarily. I can be like, I love this thing, blah, blah, blah. And he'll be like, but let's try this. And I see it and I go, oh, that's awesome. That works better than what I was thinking. It goes back to that. Trust the people you have around you. Hire the right people.
That's like the perfect, sum up or drop off point, I guess. But I forgot. We missed this. We almost missed this. When people are going to watch like Hatchet 3 or the Killogy, what would you recommend people drinking?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm trying to remember what I said last time. And I believe I said Jaeger for the Slayer videos because it's for Kerry King.
Yes, exactly.
And I think I said for Hatchet 3, drink something fruity. Or no, sorry. Drinks because of the kill of Cody Snyder where he gets his face shoved into the mud, I'd say drink a mudslide.
There we go. Exactly. Yes, you nailed it.
I think those are the drinks I said. So Jaeger for Slayer and drink a shitty New Orleans style crappy drink of mud. That's how Cody dies, getting his face stomped into the mud and drowning and his arms ripped off. chocolate mudslide.
I just realized I love Cody in that movie, and then we talk about this, and it's like he dies horrifically. I love it.
That was one of the deaths that people were very gnarled about. They were like, "It's too mean. It's not fun." I'm like, guys, it's a horror film, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and we could just do it cheesy, but let's just go for it. You know, it's like that's what you want to see in horror films. That's I think that's what makes these movies so fun is that the kills are really what make it. I mean, they're not great movies. I'll admit it. They're not. They're fun movies.
Yes.
You know, and what people go to see in these films is creature effects and kill sequences. You know, and some story. You have to have a story. Obviously, it all is based on the story. But let's be honest here. You know,
a good story, good kills, and I'm satisfied.
Yep. Exactly. And and honestly, horror fans, I think that's what they really want. And you know, you do it well, and you really go out there for it. It's perfect. You know, make the movie you want to make. But yeah, I got a lot of bummer reaction for killing Cody that way. I'll never forget that. They're like, it's so mean. It's too mean. I'm like, yeah, it is mean. Yeah.
I actually get anxious every time I like the first. I don't know. I guess it's the second death of Hatchet 1. The guy who like lays on the ground and he rips into his spine, and the guy shouts like, "It hurts." That always makes me like, "Oh fuck!
Yeah.
This is not fun. This is horrific."
Yeah, it's gnarly.
Yeah, it really is. They're fun movies, and
exactly.
I'm gonna have to watch them.
Fun. Yeah, so we'll keep making fun movies.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna, if you don't my words. I'm gonna send you my trauma movie.
Do it.
Yay! I made.
Yep. Send it my way. Check it out.
Yes, I absolutely will. So thank you so much, BJ, for being on again. And I hope we could bring you and is it Adrian, your wife?
Yep, my wife.
Yes.
Yep.
Bring her on in the future as well, since she does a lot of makeup.
She does a lot of makeup. She's got some great stories, and she's a gamer. So
that's
awesome.
Let the games begin.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
so, awesome.
We're gonna let you go now.
So. Thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
Same. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.